I thank the gentlelady from Wyoming. I'll now recognize the gentlelady from Vermont.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let's talk about invasion. Let's talk about the invasion of the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021, when the heart of American democracy was attacked by a mob, many of them violent, of then President Trump's supporters who fought to keep him in power illegally. The evidence is overwhelming. And yet many, many Republican members of the House not only continue to deny the truth, but still will not admit that Joe Biden won the 2020 election. This includes our current House Speaker, who even as recently as several weeks ago refused to affirm that Joe Biden won the 2020 election and is the legitimate president of our nation. The Speaker of the House. And it includes another member of GOP House leadership who has taken to calling those imprisoned for their illegal actions on January 6th hostages. Hostages. They attacked our very democracy, and yet they are the victims? It's morally bankrupt. This is not only a sick, twisted perversion of the truth, it's also deeply offensive to Americans across this country. What my extreme MAGA Republican colleagues and their apologists are doing is perpetrating a deeply cynical, psychological manipulation. They tell us we can't trust our own eyes, that the men and women in uniform here at the Capitol were not battered and bloodied by the mob. They tell us that it's not true that members and their staff were hiding in fear for their safety, that it's not true that Democrats and Republicans on that day knew that they were in danger, and that the president, who incited the riot and the invasion and the insurrection, they knew this truth. And they said on that day, we're done with this guy. We know the role that he played. We're done with this guy. They knew his role, they saw it up close, and then they backpedaled and apologized for Trump and spread misinformation. So I find this offensive as a public official who has sworn to uphold the Constitution, but it's also deeply concerning as an American who cares deeply about this country and the Constitution. So you have to forgive me. You gotta give me a little grace here for not being able to take this hearing seriously. This hearing, as we've said, is an absurd legal argument. The Constitution is clear. The federal government is supreme in matters of immigration and border policy. And with all due respect to Chairman Roy, I believe that his call for Texas to ignore the Supreme Court is an endorsement of lawlessness and chaos. I am a thoughtful and committed public servant. Yes, we need a secure border. Yes, we need humane border policy. We need immigration reform. We need more legal pathways for migrants to work. Yes, we are a deeply divided Congress, and we must work in a bipartisan manner to actually solve the immigration issues that have plagued us for decades. And yet, that's not what this hearing is about. And it's worse than a distraction. It's worse than a waste of time. It's actually an insult to Americans everywhere. Right now, senators, Republicans, and Democrats are working on a compromise immigration bill. Right now, the president has said that he is prepared to sign a bipartisan immigration bill. Right now, the president has said he will put an additional $14 billion into securing the border. What has been the response from my Republican colleagues in the House? No. The response is no. Trump doesn't want it, so we don't want it. We don't want a solution. We don't want to alleviate suffering. We don't want to actually secure the border. So you have to give me some grace. You got to forgive me for not believing the calls for this being such an emergency. A bipartisan group in the Senate says, we have a solution. The MAGA response has been, let's keep the chaos, we're good. Let's keep the suffering, we're good. This supposed extreme danger doesn't seem so extreme as I sit in this hearing because it's not good for the ex-president. So again, forgive me for not taking this hearing seriously. Our Republican colleagues have made it clear repeatedly that they will not work in a bipartisan manner on actual immigration reform. I yield back.